Welcome to Tanakh Talk. I am your host, William Hall, broadcasting live from Kingsland, Texas, USA, with another episode of Controversial Issues with Rabbi Chaim Coffman. Coming to you from the Holy Land. Rabbi Chaim Coffman, welcome back, sir. It's a pleasure to have you. I know. It's a
pleasure to be back.
Pleasure to be had. I get you.
Always a pleasure. Pleasure's all mine, right?
Yep, very good. Very good. All right, well, that's good. So our topic for today, salvation. Is it free, or do we really actually have to work for it? That's where we're going right now. So thank you for joining us all out there in YouTube land. And so if you have any questions or something, you can put them in the chat. I'll see if I can keep an eye on it for you. And then maybe if he runs out of stuff to say, which I'm pretty sure this is a short answer, perhaps we could open up the phone lines or something.
You interrupt me 150 times, so we'll go at least for an hour and a half, right?
That's funny. Very good.
It's the way it works.
It is. No kidding. That's funny. I got to try to fix get your voice a little bit more. There we go. Talk to me a little bit.
All right, check one. We're good.
Yep.
Check.
That's a little bit better. Very good. All right, cool.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to pass it on to you. Just tell us what to think.
Okay, so again, it's pleasure to be here. As usual, finished up Passover, lockdown, a little bit out of lockdown now. But topic is salvation. Is it a gift? So what's the short answer? No. Okay, we done? That was easy. Judaism, let's make clear. Judaism has no problem obligating people to do things, right? Especially Jews. You got a million obligations to do. You got to pray. You got to keep coach. You got to do all these things, right? It's about action, right? You don't like eating matzah. What does God say? Just shut up and eat the matzah. That's it. You got to eat, 35 pounds in, about 2.5 minutes. You got to whistle Dixie, even though we don't know how to whistle Dixie, right? So you got to go through all these different things, and it's about doing, right? We say right before the Shema in the morning, right? We say before, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. The paragraph before, we say, Lilmod alamed ishmor v'lasos. What is the purpose of Torah? The purpose of Torah is Lilmod, to learn, right? Lilmod, lamed, right, to teach, lishmor, to guard, and lasos, to do, right? It's not about conjecture. It's not about philosophy. I mean, there is a lot. There is a lot to speak about Jewish philosophy, and, you can have an interesting discussion, right? But at the end of the day, it's not about the discussion, right? It's all about what I do. It doesn't matter what we think. Now, we may have difficulty understanding things. We may have difficulty understanding things, seeing things, how God runs the world, right? Certainly, what's going on today, right? Very hard to understand many, many things. But at the end of the day, there's a divine command, right? The divine command, you got to keep the Torah. Non-Jews have to keep whatever they have to keep. How much they understand, they don't understand, they understand more. Everything is really irrelevant because it's not about what I think. Because normally there's a Talmudic dictum that says, Devarim shebelev einu devarim. Words in my heart mean absolutely zero, right? They don't mean anything, right? There are certain things that a person can get penalized for what they think, right? That's by idolatry, and that's by immorality. Even if a person doesn't act on it, if a person would say in their mind, without even verbalizing it, they would say, this short little fat guy, right, a reference to Mr. Buddha himself, Mr. Fatso, he is my God. Now, if somebody would say that in their mind without verbalizing it, 100% Torah prohibition. But we say words in your heart don't mean anything. Comes to idolatry, many prohibitions against idolatry, that you're going to be liable. Immorality. Person has certain images in their mind, even if they don't act on it, right? Also a prohibition, right? So therefore, what I think, now, there are many other ramifications over here, right? But, when we do something we have to have intention. We don't normally have proper intention today. So God cuts us a little bit of slack and says, even if you didn't have intention, you have to have minimal intention. But even if you didn't have, even if you didn't have intention, you perform the mitzvah, you actually get credit. Obviously, it's something we need to work on. There's no question about that, right? But at the end of the day, we'll say our thoughts definitely matter. And even if they do, I can't just say, well, I'm here, everything's good, and, God's going to grant me a free pass. The Ramban, Nachmanides, says by the last of the 10 trials of Abraham, right? What's the last trial? Is the Akedah, the binding of Isaac. So the Ramban asked the following question. He said, Abraham's 9 for 9. Right? He went through circumcision. He fought the 5 major world powers to save his nephew, Lot. There was a famine, right? He got thrown in a fiery furnace. All these different things. And he reached an unbelievable spiritual level. Right? So comes on the Ramban and says, if he's already 9 for 9, he's already got a great name. Faith, right? He's got a great name. Everything's good. So give him credit. Give him credit for what he's done up until this point. And since God knows past, present, and future, and he knows Abraham's going to do this anyway, why make him go through it? Right? Why make him go through it? So the simple answer is because at this point he's got a great legacy. But his legacy will not be solidified, says the Ramban, unless he goes to this final test. Now, his name was all over the place. Everybody heard of him. He brought tens of thousands, him and his wife, under the guise of Judaism, right? Brought them to belief in one God, right? He converted the men, he converted the women, right? He worked with the women and all that. That's great. So he's got this unbelievable thing he's done, right? He's got a legacy, an unbelievable legacy. That's it. Call it quits. Don't make him go through this. Sense the Ramban. And this is a fundamental principle, and that is unreached potential is unreached potential. That means if I don't do it, my thoughts are irrelevant, except there is an exception, and the exception is, what if I have in mind to do a mitzvah? Right? In many cases, if I have in mind to do a mitzvah, I get credit for doing it even if I didn't do it. The difference is, what if I started it and I didn't finish it? So the Medrash says, if you start a mitzvah, you didn't finish it, you bury your wife and your kids. Now that's pretty severe. So why do I get credit for doing the mitzvah if I didn't start it? But if I do start it, I don't finish it, I'm liable, and you bury your wife and your kids, God forbid. Reason is because you started the mitzvah. You showed God, this is really important. I'm going to do this, and then you get delayed. Or then you dilly-dally, or you forget about it, or you get something happens, right? Your mind wanders and you go on to something else. So what are you doing? Even if you're under onus and anything else, God's going to tell you, what, I'm chopped liver, right? You started the mitzvah, you invoked my name, you didn't finish. Why isn't that important, right? If you start something, for sure you got to finish it. But it's not like, it'd be very easy to say, well, we got a free pass. If you got a free pass, that means you don't have to do anything. That means all you have to do is, you repent a little bit, feel bad, maybe you drop a remorse, and that's it. Or, as like many people have said, I had a relative a number of years ago give one of my kids a gift. It was a sweater. It was good timing because it was winter. In the sweater, in the back of the sweater, it says 100% wool. So it says 100% wool. How do we know there's no linen? Right? There's a Torah prohibition of mixing wool and linen. So therefore, you have to get it checked. Right? It's called Hostess. You got to get it checked by somebody who knows how to check. So I was telling this relative, I said, thank you very much. I'm going to get it checked. We'll see. Hopefully it should be fine. Whatever. So they asked me why. So I said, because this is prohibition. This is Torah prohibition. You can't have wool and linen together. It's called Hostess. You can't wear it together. So they said, why? So I said, I don't know. Good question. I said, it's a chok. It's a law that we don't really understand. There are many laws like that. Torah commands is what I have to do. So this relative said, how come you can't give me an answer? I thought I could give you a Kabbalistic answer maybe, right? But, according to simple explanation, doesn't make sense, right? It's not logical. So after this bantering back and forth, they said, well, if you can't explain it to me, let's say in a rational way, then why should I keep it? So my answer, thinking quickly, was, well, let's say I have 5 different answers. If I have 5 different answers why you're supposed to keep this mitzvah, you can knock off all of them. You say, no, I don't like this. This one doesn't speak to me. That one doesn't really speak to me. The other one, nah, come on. My dead grandmother could have given a better explanation. Come on. Give me something. Give me something real. Okay, here's a 4th explanation. Right? So my answer was, I could give you all these explanations, you could still knock it off. Because you can say, well, how can I really keep anything? And that's really the crux of the issue here, is how can I really keep anything, if I don't really fully understand it? Well, how much? So now let's call a spade. What's the definition? Is the definition, does it mean, well, I have to understand it Kabbalistically? I have to understand it to I have to read every single book written on it, and then if I really understand it, I'll keep it? Or is that just a block? Right? Is that just an excuse? Someone's going to say, yeah, I really have to know it. I really have to understand it. But my language, as we say in Boston, is a bunch of malarkey. Why is it a bunch of malarkey? Because you just use it as an excuse not to keep anything. Say, I really have to understand it. How much philosophy do you need? Right? Here's 10 answers. Which one, pick one. No, I don't, why aren't you going to pick one? Because right? So it's just an excuse to say I don't have to do anything. But the point was, I could philosophize forever. I could philosophize about that. I could philosophize about eating matzah, the exodus from Egypt. I could philosophize on that. Maybe Saturn was out of orbit. That's why all the miracles happened. There is such a crazy opinion, right? But I could do that with any mitzvah. And if I would do that, God forbid, with any mitzvah, I wouldn't do anything. Right? Because if you look at the Torah at face value, 80% or more doesn't make any sense. Right? It's not logical. It's not logical for us. You have to put our minds into the Torah, try and understand it, to try and fathom it. But if we would use this logic to the nth degree, people would never do anything. And if God tells you this is going to draw you closer, this is going to make you more beloved to me, so I would say, okay, I'm a simple guy. Right? Why am I going to question that? He gave us a book, passed it down to Moshe, right? One of the 13 principles of Maimonides that everyone, in order to be a Jew, right? This is what you have to believe in. And the fact is that Moshe Rabbeinu is the father of all prophets. He was only a scribe. He couldn't add or subtract to the Torah. God gave him a stamp of approval in front of 2 million people. Right? You don't believe in that, you're out. Right, unless you repent, and all these different principles, not really the topic for now. But the point is, there's a lot we can philosophize. Is it really the same Torah? Is it a big game of telephone? How does oral tradition work? Why should we listen to the rabbis? We had a lot of good shows on this stuff. There are a lot of good questions, right? But at the end of the day, it's not about blind faith. You have to try and understand. You have to try and make sense. But we could, of everything, doesn't matter, even the red heifer, right? One of the things that that King Solomon said, he had difficulty understanding the wisest of all men. Red heifer doesn't make any sense, right? You look at it, Cohen comes, burns this cow, uses the ashes that someone's impure, sprinkles the ashes, he becomes pure. The one who sprinkles the ashes, the Cohen becomes impure. Makes no sense, right? Totally not logical. So nonetheless, you still have to try and understand it. Doesn't mean we just give it a free pass. It's illogical. I don't have to understand it. No, that's part of Torah. You have to learn, right? But even if I don't understand it, and this is, this is the other point, is even if I have a base understanding, I still have to keep it. I have to listen to the rabbis. I got to pray 3 times a day. If I have to go now, can't go to a synagogue. I have to go out to my porch. Right? Thank God, I got a lot of neighbors, so I can go out to my porch. Okay. So God says, I give you the ability to come close to me 3 times a day, prayer. how many people really understand what they're doing in prayer, right? Within the Orthodox community. If you don't understand Kabbalah, right, at a basic level, the prayers, okay, you feel something, you get something out of it, but you're missing a whole lot. Prayer comes 3 times a day. You're having a conversation with the one who created the world. How could you go in blind and not really know, or just have really a base understanding, right? As a great rabbi once told me, I was by him on Sukkot, and I saw these cards that he had in his house of, Kabbalistic intention of shaking a lulav, right? And, whatever. So I asked him, I said, wow, it must have so much more meaning, when you shake the lulav with Kabbalistic intention. He looked at me and said, everything has more meaning, if you understand Kabbalah. Okay, so most of us are never going to get to that level. Fine, but something as basic as prayer, which always needs to be strengthened, the Talmud tells us, how can we not understand it at a higher level? Right? How can we just go in and do it by rote, okay, and have a minimal understanding? Because if I don't, then I'll never pray, right? Then I'll never have that connection. If you open up yourself a little bit, the Talmud says, God does the rest, opens up everything. So, but again, it doesn't mean I fathom everything. It's very, the Ramchal in Derech Hashem sets it out, right? He makes it clear. The book is all, steeped in Kabbalah about why God created the world, why created man, the purpose of the nations, and all that, and reincarnation, another hot topic, right? So he goes to explain why the righteous suffer and how we're supposed to look at the world and how you have these spiritual forces and they're taking your actions, they take it up to heaven and it gets judged, it gets thrown back, and then it gets analyzed, and then there are repercussions. He's going through all these different things, obviously, on a Kabbalistic level, but still, we can still get something out of it even if we don't understand the Kabbalah. Right, but the idea is what we see and what we understand. It's just a drop in the bucket. Certainly, the age-old question: how the righteous suffer, and evil people have it easy. You look at that. Yeah, you can delve in that for years. Right? You look at Elie Wiesel. Right? A lot of the books that he wrote, all about the Holocaust. It's not like someone came up with a great explanation. Oh, that's the answer. No more books. Right? Get stuck on a certain thing, and I'm not coming here to judge in any which way. Anyone, who went through the Holocaust and came out intact, with their minds intact, and their faith intact, I take my hat off to them because, unbelievably rough thing that they went through, losing family, friends, etc. So a person can get stuck in a philosophical issue, use it as a block, and say, well, if God is this, then why did this happen? Right? If God is all good, how could this happen? Well, I got a great book, right? It's called Hasidic Tales of the Holocaust. Right? There's different ways to try and explain it. You want to listen? No, I'm angry because God took away my family. Okay, but I'm not going to say, wow, this happened and my family died. Right? Obviously, a person can't make that claim. We don't know why. We're still too close. Right? You see what's going on today. It's an unbelievable decree. Gets from, a lot of righteous people dying. Right? And we're not living in a simple situation. And not only that, I was just telling a neighbor of mine, it's an unbelievable thing. At least, some people have the ability on their porches to be able to pray. At least, to be able to pray with, 10 other people. But I said it's an unbelievable thing. All synagogues are shut down. The biggest weapon you have to fight against something like this is prayer. And you can't even pray, you can't even, get 10 people together or more in one place to, cry out to heaven to stop, to stop a decree. So we could get stuck. It's very easy. Very, very easy to get stuck, on a subject. And unless you're intellectually honest, most people, again, are going to use it as a block. And what are they going to say? They're going to say, well, that's it. I'm done. Well, did you really look into it? Did you really think into it? Did you read any books on it? And most people are going to say, this is what I think. This is what's happened. I'm angry and I'm not going to budge. Right? So they're stuck on an issue. Now, I'm not saying it's an important issue. I'm not saying people haven't suffered, people haven't gone through difficult times, or whatever it is. People have all kinds of philosophical questions. What about archaeology? How does archaeology fit in? The age of the universe. People throw these questions out, right? And they'll say, wow, it's such a deep thing. Well, have you read any books to try and reconcile it or not? Or you just want a free pass to say, I don't have to keep anything because I have this major question, right? And it's a legitimate question, right? How does science fit in? What about archaeology? What are all these things? Great. These are legitimate questions. And if someone is a real seeker, they're going to find the answer if they want the truth. If they don't want the truth, it's not going to matter. They're not going to look. I've heard many people say, they had questions in Christianity, and finally they got so fed up, that's when they looked at Rabbi Singer's stuff. Before that, they couldn't even listen. They weren't even open enough to listen, but when they got fed up enough and they said, okay, I want to see the other side. I want to see if the argument is true or not, or whatever, fine. Those are the real seekers. The ones that want a free pass, not only are lazy, they don't want to do anything. And spiritual work is hard. It's not about rolling around in the snow when it's 20 below and showing how pious you are. Mentioned many times, the Ramchal in Path of the Just says, I beg to differ. Someone who does that, they want to be so pious. No, you're an idiot, right? What he says is, it's about sanctifying the physical, right? Something antithetical to Christianity. Take Purim, the craziest day of the year. You're drinking, you're singing, you want to be close to God, right? Nifnus yayin yoitzesod. When the wine goes in, the secrets come out, right? But you want to see what's inside a person. And what's inside them should be, there should be tears coming down their eyes. And they say, I want to see God's presence in this world. I want to see the Beis HaMikdash. I want to see the temple rebuilt. If they're talking about stupidity, there's no mitzvah for them to drink. Doesn't mean you can't have fun. Right? But the question is what's inside a person. So you have all these different issues, and each one of them in and of themselves, is a topic, it's a topic by itself. It is an important topic, a lot written on a lot of these things, but the question is how far people take them. And I can tell you, in my own journey, ain't nothing handed. It was a struggle from day one. And through the struggle, going through the language and going through the sources and learning and having the questions, person's got to be open enough to hear. Because we're blinded by society, we're blinded by social media, we're hit on all sides, and we don't have 5 minutes to think for ourselves. Like this, when you think, fine, okay, I'm in the bathroom, I got I got 5 minutes. All of a sudden, someone's banging on the door. Dad, I'm like, I'm busy. Like, what are you doing? You don't have 5 minutes to think for yourself. That's what this world is, right? We don't have time to think, right? But this whole idea that it doesn't mean we shouldn't think either. It doesn't mean we're robots, right? Not having a free pass, right, means I got to take responsibility for my actions, right? That's really another major point here is that if a person just gets a free pass, he didn't learn anything, he didn't gain anything. Let's say somebody inherited millions of dollars. It's invested well. They never have to work. Everything's done. Do they appreciate money? They don't. Why do most people have money don't appreciate it if they didn't work for it? Because it was given as a gift. Something that you earned, something that you had to strive for, something you had to work hard for. That's worthwhile. And it's worthwhile because I started somewhere, right? I was mentioning the other day to somebody, about a similar thing. Anything you learn is a building block, right? And a building block takes time. You got, build one block, another block, another block. Knowledge does not come overnight. There are people that jump in, head over heels. They jump in and they fall flat in their face because they try to do too much too quick. You got to take it step by step. Someone who wants to convert, you're not going to all of a sudden buy 2 sets of dishes and change this and change that. You're going to change your dress. And you're not going to be able to do it. It's too hard, right? But the more you learn, you start having different types of questions. Why does it say like this over here, not like this over there? Whatever. right? You start asking different types of questions. That's knowledge, right? You're gaining knowledge. So no piece of information is ever thrown by the wayside. The reason is it's there to build. It's there for you to put in your mind and hopefully to retrieve it, when you need it. So that being the case, most people who come to Torah, whether it's a Jew or it's a non-Jew, knows that they went through the struggle, right? Because most of the people, at least I deal with, got thrown out of the church because they ask questions. Right? The church says no question, right? So asking questions, finally getting to the root of it, finally realizing, a person's been duped and they've been lied, in a whole 9 yards, and then they finally come to the truth. And they say, okay, now I'm ready, right? Now I'm open. God, you show me the way. You give me the direction. You put someone in my path, that can certainly help me, get to the other side. That's what's needed, right? Otherwise, if someone's it's handed to them, it's not something they're going to appreciate. If you look at the Haggadah, another example, right? You look at the Haggadah on Passover. In the Haggadah, we do a lot of things to get the kids to question. Hey, why did you just, take away the Seder plate? Hey, why is this night different from all other nights? Hey, we're all wearing masks. There's someone, I saw a great post that some people went going shopping, buying Passover stuff, and they're all wearing masks and gloves. So one of the kids said, why are we doing this? 30 years ago, in your great-grandparents' generations, had this whole thing, and this is the custom they passed down. So it's like, you have all these custom that was the custom of, wearing the mask and gloves. But the point is that by the Haggadah, it's all about question and answers, right? It's all about getting the questions out. So why go to that extent? Tell the story. What happened to our forefathers? And they suffered, and these were the plagues, and Dayenu, and this would have been enough, and all these different things. What's the deal with question and answer all the way through, right? All kinds of mnemonics that are done, right, throughout the Haggadah. The simple answer is, when a person asks a question, and either they understand the answer themselves, they figured it out themselves, or someone explained it to them, and they understood what they said, that's a heck of a lot more. They're getting a lot more out of it than if they would just read the story, right? In other words, if you ask the question, right? There's the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot in Ethics of Our Fathers, the end of chapter 6, says 48 ways to acquire Torah. So there's a certain character trait every day during the day after Passover until Shavuot. There are 49 days, and there are 48 character traits to work on, right? About proper respect for your teachers and limiting sleep and other things, right? The last thing is that if you say something in the name of someone you learned it from, that brings the gula. That hastens the redemption, right? So ask the question why. Now, again, it's my opinion. You can take it for what it's worth. I do think it's true, but you can take it for what it's worth. And if somebody, let's say somebody had a question, they had a question in Torah, right? They have this question, and they're looking around. Normally, if you don't find the question, it's probably not a valid question, because we're not coming up with any new questions that no great rabbinical authorities never thought of. We're not going to, as King Solomon says in Ecclesiastes, "Ein davar chadash tachas hashemesh." Nothing new under the sun. They brought these ideas to the world and gave us the ability to tap into them. But that being the case, let's say a person has an idea, right? They have a certain question. They're hunting, they're looking, they're this, they're that. They don't see anyone ask the question. Okay. They still have it in the back of their mind. They're looking. Boom! They find a rabbinical authority, let's say 150 years ago. Or 150 years ago, asked the same question. So how great does he feel? He says, my question was asked by this great rabbi. Unbelievable. Okay, what's his answer? All right, you look at the answer, whatever. Now, if you're giving this over to someone else, what is the likelihood you want to mention you saw this in the name of this great rabbi 150 years ago? Or that you want to take it as your own idea? What would be more impressive? The latter, right? What are you going to say? I had this question. I had this question, and because of this and that, and this is how it comes out, or whatever, you build the whole thing up. You don't mention this rabbi at all. How impressive do you look? I would think you look pretty impressive, right? Comes along the Mishnah over there, right? In the 48 ways, what does the Mishnah tell you? Mishnah tells you that if you start the name of someone else, you have to say it in their name. You're not allowed to say it in your name. That's obviously, that'd be plagiarism, right? Because it's not your idea. It's not your original idea. Even if it was a rabbi in your own generation who said it and put it in a book, it's not your idea. He said it. But I also have the same idea, right? So it comes along the Mishnah, and the Mishnah says, when you give that over to someone else, when you say his name, that shows unbelievable humility. Why does it show humility? Because I can knock him off and say, what do I have to mention him for? I spent hours, thinking this question out and like this and like that, and finally I saw someone who brought it out. Good. So that legitimizes my question, right? Maybe I have a different answer, maybe the same answer, whatever it is, that legitimizes my question, makes me look 10 times better, right? All the accolades, you think, wow, what a brilliant mind. Look what he came up with. What a novelty. What an unbelievable thing. I want to give credit to someone else. It's got to be out of your mind, right? Why would I want to do that? Comes along the Mishnah and says, if you do that, it's such a great thing, by being humble and giving credibility to where the credibility deserves, then that's gonna happen the redemption, right? Because the reality is you don't want to give someone credit. Doesn't matter who it is. You don't give them credit, right? So for anybody, they have a little bit of an ego. Everyone's going to have a little bit of an ego. And this would give someone an unbelievable, they pat themselves on the back, go have a chocolate bar. Everything's great, because look how hard you worked and look what you got, right? And now look at this. I have to say it in someone else's name. Come on. That's a whole different, that's a whole different thing. So, when you're able to give over of that and not hold it for yourself and give the credibility where it deserves, it's a whole, that's a whole different thing, right? So, so there are a number of ideas, right? There are a number of ideas over here that, I think we have to hold on to very tight, right? One of them is that Judaism is about hard work. It's about striving. Anyone who learns and anyone who's ever learned, looked at a text, been in a class, had to analyze, use the 1/10 or less of our brains that we actually maximize. It's rough, right? I had a number of people tell me, for years, you sat and learned all day. You really do much. I was like, yeah, go ahead, 10 hours a day. Let's see. I don't think you'll last more than a couple of days. It's hard, right? Strains the brain, 100%. It's going to work hard. So Judaism is not about getting a free pass. Judaism, and the other point, the other real point over here is that Judaism is about, it's about repercussions. It's really about responsibility. And responsibility means I have to take responsibility for what I do. In my actions, there's going to be repercussions for what I do, for good or for bad. So if that's true, how can I get a free pass? Right? How can someone come and say, well, we're going to pass the buck. We're going to make it very easy. You don't have to do anything. Right? You absolutely have to do zero. I can philosophize as much as I want. But when you're going to get upstairs, God's going to say, right, what's the first thing he's going to ask you? Two things. One thing he's going to ask you is, were you honest in business? The question, what comes first? Were you honest in business, and did you learn Torah? Right? You're going to say, learn Torah? Come on. I was too busy philosophizing. I couldn't get past, this or that. I remember a number of rabbis I learned under that, certain places you get stuck. You have a question, right? So the general rule is, you get stuck, fine. Look around, see if you find an answer. keep it in the back of your mind, and you go further. I said, but how can I go further? I don't have an answer, right? I don't have a clear-cut answer. Okay, but if you have that mentality, and in general, this is what you're going to do, and you're going to philosophize, etc., you're never going to get anywhere, right? Not only are you not going to get anywhere, you're not going to cover any ground. The whole purpose to learn is to cover ground, right? You got to cover ground, but you can't cover ground so fast you don't understand anything, that's for sure, right? But at the same time, covering ground, right, means I can't get stuck, right? So if I don't understand something, either I have to go ask somebody, or I have to write it down and say, okay, I got a question, I have to deal with it, but I'm not going to let it, destroy my continuity. Because if it does, then what happens? You get behind, right? You get bogged down. You have to know where to get bogged down, where not to get bogged down. But the point is, you get stuck, right? And then once you get stuck, that's it. Then you say, well, I can't go further. And that's the excuse that a lot of people use, and they'll say, oh, I never got over this, right? And there are people that have hang-ups for a number of reasons. It could be they need therapy to try and get over it, right, in general. But there are certain things that someone will say and says, this is a hump I can't get over, right? I live in the modern world. I'm a big-time feminist. I don't see how TORAH answers that. I can't get out of it. This is what, or someone's sexual or someone's something else, whatever it is, and that's it. And they never get beyond that. And to me, that's sad. There are certain things that say a person goes through trauma. A person may never get over it, right? It might take years, right? A person goes through very serious things. But at the same time, many, many times, people are just going to use this as an excuse. They're not going to do the research. They're not interested in knowing the truth. They're just going to throw it out as a block and say philosophy. Okay, read books. Maybe it's not true. Got a great, I got a whole library of stuff you could read. No, that's brainwashing. Okay? Right? But if you're going to get stuck on something, then you have to be intellectually honest. And how many people I come in contact with are not that intellectually honest? Right? Somebody who, in the process of conversion, and they finally saw the light and whatever, they had a Bible class in their house, brought, a whole bunch of people, wanted to show all kinds of stuff from, Rabbi Singer stuff. They weren't interested. The people weren't interested. And I told this person, I said, you're not going to convince them. Because if they've been that way for like 40 years, they're not going to open their eyes. They're not interested in what? I've been lied to for 40 years? And what's the answer, Joey Caesar? Yes, you've been lied to. Right? That's 100% true, but people don't want to admit it. People don't want to have to change. And this person, the person contacted me afterwards and said, I can't believe it. I said, I told you. Prophecy. Of course it's going to happen. Right, cognitive dissonance. They don't want to listen. They don't want to, they don't want to hear. They want to be stuck in the same things. Well, I have this issue. Okay, maybe there's 5 books you could read. That may get you out of the issue. That could happen. Are you interested in getting out of the issue? And some people are interested. Right. So therefore, what happens? They don't get any. So the philosophical mumbo jumbo that that people go through. And that people use as excuses, that's exactly what it is. And it has no room in Judaism. Judaism doesn't say, you have to believe in blind faith. The mitzvah to believe in God, for instance, is Exodus chapter 20, verse 2. Right? Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am the Lord your God, took you out of the land of bondage, took you out of the land of Egypt, the land of servitude. Etc. How do I know God exists? Because he took you out of the land. He intervenes. He intervenes in history. Now, there's a lot of proof, sociological proof, other proof, shows that Jewish people were there and these miracles and whatever, right? So, it's not about just believing, right? It's belief with knowledge. Obviously, okay, you got to look into things. Is it verified? Can it be verified? Most people are not going to be interested. Okay, they're not intellectually honest. But you can't use that as an argument and philosophize. Say, well, I got this question. Well, I got that question. Well, guess what? I may actually have answers. Are you interested in the answer? Or are you just answering and, throwing these things out? So, when it comes to the next world, first, the Gemara says, the Talmud tells us, if you don't prepare Erev Shabbos, you don't get up, you don't get to eat on Shabbos. Right? In other words, you don't prepare in this world. Why should you have something, in the next world? That means you got to do something. It's about action. It's not just about osmosis. I remember, someone I was learning with was walking around the study hall with a tractative Talmud on his head. So I'm like, what are you doing? Well, A, I'm trying to balance it, and B, I'm trying to get it through osmosis. Like maybe it's not going to enter, it's going to enter the brain. But, you have to prepare. You have to work. Any mitzvah, you got to learn. You got to learn to the best of your ability. What does it mean? What is it? What are my obligations? It comes to keeping the Sabbath. You got to know what to do. You got to know what the laws are. Right? Again, so I'm going to learn it more in depth, some less in depth, but at the end of the day, you got to know what to do. It's not about 100%. It's not about, it's not about philosophy. Right? It's not about, hey, why can't I tear toilet paper? Right? Why can't I tear toilet paper on Shabbos? Right? That's not the question. The question is what category does it come under? But the question is, what's the importance of Shabbos? Why does God care if I do that or not? Okay, that's a philosophical question. And once you understand what Shabbos is, that question goes by the wayside. Then the only question is, okay, what is it? What category is this? How does this apply? Does it apply? Doesn't apply? Right? That's how that's how it works. That's where that's when you roll up your sleeves. So it doesn't matter, how in depth I understand or I don't understand. It's all about the fact that I have to do something. And if I don't do anything, I'm held liable for that as well. A friend of mine would always say, it's better not to know anything, because if I don't know anything, then God's not going to have any claim against me. So of course he is. He's going to claim you're an idiot. You were an ignoramus. You could have learned, and you didn't. Famous message, the story of a fisherman. Fisherman dies, gets upstairs. God says, hey, did you learn Torah? What do you mean? You didn't give me a brain to learn Torah. God says, really? He said, what was your occupation? He said, I was a fisherman. He said, explain to me. Explain to me what you did. And he said, I make these nets, these intricate things. This is how I did it. Whatever. What is the whole thing? This whole intricate plan, right, of how we made a living by trapping fish. But God tells him, wow, that's so interesting. He said, I bet you the God that gave you brains to make a living and catch fish, most likely gave you brains to learn Torah also. Right? So he gives it. Well, I didn't have the brains. Right? So some people, right, that's hard for them. Right? Learning's not an easy thing. Okay. And if you're mentally challenged, you're exempt 100%. You don't have the same brain capability. Right? But a person still has to strive. Right? It's not enough just to say, well, here I am. Right? Whatever happens. There are repercussions. Torah makes clear. Right? As we say in the second paragraph of the Shema. Right? Torah says you do the right thing, so God will give you water. Right? You have food, everything's good. You do the wrong thing, payback. Right? So it means you have to do something. You can't just sit there and do nothing. You can't just say, well, someone came, took care of my things, I don't have to work. Right? That's obviously not true. People say, I had someone tell me, look at all these books. It's impossible for someone to learn all of them. So what was my answer? My answer was, you ever see a lawyer? You ever go to a lawyer's office? So how many books does he have on the shelf? Tons, probably. Right? Different case studies, this, that. How can you learn all that? Says, he uses it for a reference. You think he knows all that? Well, there are people learning Torah, can spin it back, backwards and forwards. Know it, the commentaries and this and that. It's possible. Right? Definitely is possible. You got to work hard. Right? But, using that as an excuse, look at all these books. Well, doctors have that also. Do they know all the books? No. They use it as reference. A lot of them do. Some of them know more, some less. Doesn't matter. Right? It's not even the point. Right? So, it's about this. The Mishnah Pirkei Avos, Ethics of Our Fathers, also tells us this world is a portico. It's a portico to the next world, but you have to be in this world. You have to do what God wants you to do. You have to prepare. If you don't prepare, you don't do anything. It's over. Right? You're not. If you don't know anything, okay, God is going to, judge you in a way where, what you did is not going to necessarily look like you did it on purpose. Certain things, God's going to throw the book at you. You know, Shabbos is death penalty. Doesn't matter. You understand it. You don't understand it. Someone doesn't believe in resurrection. Doesn't matter why. It's one of the 13 principles of faith. You don't get up, right? You don't believe in a basic principle, right? That all Jews have to believe in unless you repent, unless you do tshuva. But that's it. Why should you get up, right? You are going against, main tenet. So ignorance is in bliss over here. Right, you'll be thrown the book at because you could have looked at it further. So what can a person claim? Right, and that's really what the basis topic is. What can a person claim? I had questions. I had a lot of questions. A lot of philosophical, issues. God says, okay, let's play the video. Let's see what you did in your life. How much did these questions really affect your life? Did they really affect it in such a way you couldn't function, or not? And most likely, a lot of those times, they're going to get knocked off. What about someone who suffered? And they suffered tremendously. It was something they couldn't get over, right? So what's God going to answer to that? God will say that I never put someone in a position that they can't handle. Now, we may think ourselves, we can't handle it, it's too hard, right? Whatever the situation is, and people go through a lot of difficulty, no question about it. Nonetheless, that is the mantra. Because why would God put you in a position to fail? He doesn't want you to fail, right? Okay, why is he squeezing you like this? I don't have an answer for that, right? It's probably based on either something you did or what your soul did in a previous life. But this is something you have to go through. But it's hard. Of course it's hard. Right? Some people have it easier, some people have it more difficult, whatever the trial and tribulation is. It doesn't matter. But it's not an excuse. People use it as an excuse. I can't believe God would do this. Well, how much do you understand what God does and how he runs the world? I can't emphasize, you read the book, The Way of God, Derech Hashem by the Ram, how a lot of things become much clearer. Much, much clearer. Even at a basic level, it becomes very clear how things work. In this world. And the bottom line is, what we see, we don't understand. We don't understand anything. Because there's so many other things going on in how God's orchestrating, right? It sounds like the Matrix in so many different ways, how all these different forces doing this and doing that and doing the other thing. You can have forces going against each other, right, in a certain way. Let's say you got an angel, that's in charge of protecting trees. And then you got an angel of wind. Right? An angel of wind is supposed to make a hurricane. What happens? Well, it's hurricanes. It's very strong wind against trees. Can the angel that's protecting the trees? No. Gets knocked off. Right? So there are different things that are going on, right? Even within nature, that we don't fathom. I'll give one example. Right, as we're running out of time, I'll give one example that if a person takes an axe, takes a saw, takes a hacksaw, whatever, is chopping down a tree, chopping down a tree for wood. We're allowed to use the tree for wood to make paper, make other things, right? Whatever it is, right? So the Medrash says when that tree is getting cut down, that the tree itself is screaming in pain, but we don't hear it. Imagine you got this, this huge saw and you're cutting down this tree. The second the saw hits the tree, you hear someone screaming. You hear the tree itself screaming. You may think, okay, got to get my head checked, get examined, see if I'm actually living in this world, right? But the reason you don't hear it is because then you wouldn't do half these things. But you need it. You need to cut down the trees to have paper. Right? You need to cut down the trees for wood. You need to cut trees down for all kinds of things, right? But there are a lot of things that we see that we don't, we don't see beyond, right? If we saw beyond and saw a great picture, someone put up a picture of like these Pac-Man looking like a coronavirus, and all these Pac-Mans in the air, right? So the caption was, "Are you going to go outside now?" And you can see them, you can see them just like floating around. Right, so there are millions of things, that we don't see. Doesn't mean they don't exist, right? But it gives us gives us some way to understand A, how these things are put in the world, B, how they're put together, what they're doing, and C, we don't have a clue. We don't have a clue, whatsoever of what we're looking at. But at the end of the day, if a person knows and understands 100% God's in charge and God runs the world, and all that, so that's it, right? That's it. Everything else, everything else is gravy. The more you understand, great. But again, you have to look into things. You have to learn. You have to read, and you have to remember a lot of things. A lot of things, or just about everything, right, emanates from Him, right? Emanates from God. So when a person looks at the Torah and looks at these mitzvahs, you got to remember it's godlike, right? It came from God Himself, passed it down to Moshe. So you're going to say, why can't I understand it? There was a certain thing I was learning. And it was all about, like damages, laws of damage, going through this case once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, trying to make sense out of it. So that's one of my rabbis' questions. I don't understand. I said, this is the closest thing to our understanding, right? Damages, something we can understand. Someone caused someone damage. I said, but this is breaking my brain, right? As Rabbi said, and this is really the point, is you have to remember it's God. This is a godly book. If it's a godly book, you gotta work hard. Even if it's something that you understand, and it's possible to understand, you gotta remember whence and where, it comes from. We can't lose sight of that. Today we don't have too many big thinkers. And people are ready to throw in the towel straight away because they don't want to work. They don't want to work hard, right? And there are difficult issues. The issues haven't changed over the years. I'm not saying there aren't difficult issues. But if someone, really wants to delve into it, you can get answers other than, well, God said it and that's it. That's really the truth. And whatever layer we uncover, there are multiple layers underneath that, right? All that being true, the more I understand, right, as the rabbis tell us, the more I understand, the more I uncover, the less I really know, and the more out there, that I have to go digging for, because you're only hitting it at a very shallow level, so to speak. Even the greatest rabbis, even if they know the Talmud backwards and forwards, this and that. Again, plenty of things in the world. There's multiple levels. And if a person really, I guess I'll end with this. If a person really wants answers, you have to be a vessel to be open to say, I'm willing to take whatever the answer is. And again, sometimes the answer is going to be because God said it. We don't know, right? There may be this answer, that answer, but there could be 100 different answers, of why, right? But as Ramchal says, and he was an unbelievable Kabbalist, Ramchal says, many times this is something we cannot fathom. And if you can't fathom it, doesn't mean it's a crutch. I say, well, I don't have to keep it. What it means is you have to know that you're limited. You're limited in knowledge. You're not God. You can try and understand it, but you're finite. Even though your soul is infinite, you're not going to gather all that information, right? And we can't quit either. Just because, we get stuck here, we get stuck there, okay. You dig in, you try and learn it again. Try and do this, try and do that. That's all part of learning. But a person may never get to what the real answer is because, again, it's hidden. We're living in a tremendous world of hiddenness, and therefore the more we're going to work, the more we're going to get. But we're also going to see that as much as we know, there's plenty that we don't know.
Gotcha. That was a mouthful. So much for a short, sweet.
Why did you interrupt 10 times? You didn't even interrupt.
Hey, you were on a roll. It looked like you were going to take this thing all the way home. It looks like you did. That was good. All right. Very good. Well, it was a good show, Rabbi. Thank you for taking this road with us. If you guys have any recommendations next week for a topic for next week's show, please do send a request for this to TanakTalkQuestions@gmail.com, or you can send it to Orthodox Conversion. Go to OrthodoxConversion.com and send your request to Rabbi Coffman if you want to put his machine stuff up right now.
You can send it on Facebook. You can send it on Facebook. beyond Orthodox conversion to Judaism. You can send me a text there.
Yeah, that's a good
Only
idea.
send good things. I don't want hate mail. I'll just send it to you. So I'll slap it back.
That's funny. That's funny. And
It's good to be loved. We all love to be loved.
We'll take that to the complaint department. That's all I know. Very good. All right. Let's see. Let me get my old screener back up here. So do you have any idea what you want to do next week?
I don't know. You had a bunch of good topics there.
Okay, cool. Well, if we don't hear from the crowd, then we'll pick one of the other two or three that I put up for you. So, all right, guys.
I thought, I even thought for myself, I thought, I'm probably going to hit another topic in between, but you're right. I just kept going.
That's all right, though.
just the way it is.
Hey, that is okay. All right, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. I got some good books on the screen for you there. Counter-Missionary work by Rabbi Tovia Singer, Rabbi Stuart Federow, Jason LaCrosse, and James Wood Jr. Feel free to check those out. OutreachJudaism.org for the 2-volume book set. Judaism and Christianity Contrast, WhatJewsBelieve.org. And then Revealing Matthew's Secrets and Leaving Jesus, you can find on Amazon. Pretty much you can find everything on Amazon these days, but that's pretty much it right there, folks. So looking forward to seeing you guys next week, same time, same place, Hashem willing. And so you guys take care, and Shavua Tov. Take care.
חשוב מכל חשוב והכרחי להיות ביחד איפוק זו העוצמה ויתור זו הגדולה השאיפה והכמיהה חושבים דוברים לובשים בכל האופנים זה טבעם של אנשים שונים נזכור בסוף כולנו שותפים חשוב תמיד להיות אנושיים לובשים בכל האופנים זה טבעם של אנשים שונים נזכור בסוף כולנו שותפים חשוב תמיד להיות אנושיים אני אתה אתם תמיד כולם ביחד חשוב מכל חשוב